What is up, everybody? Welcome here to Half-Ass Pod. We are here tonight to do the movie review of Wes Craven's New Nightmare, the 1994 classic. And we would like to probably, I guess, some of us would probably call it Wes Craven's baby. I guess maybe. I don't know. But over here to my left or right, whichever way you're watching, I can't really tell because the camera's right here. But anyways, over here, we've got the author, the creator, the editor, the illustrator, the end-all, be-all of not only Walter Paisley Cafe, but spit out, Mark Platt. Mark, say what's up to the people, man.
Hey, everybody. The heat index was 102 in Toledo, Ohio today. It's very much summer, but I am already getting excited about Halloween. And I have a feeling a lot of movie lovers are excited too.
Facts. I gotta say, hey, for once, Ohio was hotter than Florida, at least Central Florida.
Wow.
Because today it was cloudy. It stormed a little bit, about 88 degrees all day today. But the humidity still made it feel like it was worse. But I mean, it's Florida though, so I mean, what can I say? But ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are reviewing Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and I gotta say, Mark, man, starting off with this, man, this is a very interesting movie. I mean, I did a little bit of like background work on this movie, and it's definitely this had to be like maybe the redheaded stepchild of the entire franchise. I don't know, but like but in a good way, not even in a bad way, in a good way. This was a script that I learned that Wes Craven. I've had to put down in my notes here that Wes Craven's this script was turned down so many times throughout the franchise run of the Nightmare franchise. Apparently this was supposed to be in the place of Dream Warriors, I believe. This was supposed to be like the third or fourth, and it got turned down, and then later on, and then it got turned down again. I'm not sure if you know that. I don't know. But
No, I didn't.
Yeah. So apparently Wes Craven has tried to put this script into the franchise like 2 or 3 times and got turned down. Then finally New Line Cinemas was like, yeah, we need Freddy back. So you got this script. You finally got Wes Craven's movie. And let me tell you something. It was honestly this was critically received well. It just didn't make as much money as they thought it would. But I wouldn't call this movie, I mean, maybe a financial flop, but not necessarily. Maybe a financial letdown. But critically, movie-wise, it's a pretty damn good movie. What were your thoughts? Yeah. What were your thoughts, Mark?
Yeah. I think the meta aspect of it, mind you, this was 1994. Right now, meta stuff, is par for the course. But I mean, we've had it before, but I don't know. Wes Craven, this was just the inkling of what it later became Scream, so this sort of meta setting, was something that nobody really played around with this much. And I can see why it's a critic, why the critics like it, because it's definitely an original take. It's definitely a way to redefine the horror movies. Mind you, I mean, we had, Freddy now, at this point of the movie, what, for 10 years?
Because 84, it came. The first one was 84, right?
Yeah. So right. So, it could be easily, considered stale. I mean, the last Friday, Freddy's Dead, they might have been just able to let it go at that. And, the next step was, well, we do this, meta movie. And, I mean, like I said, I think it was really well done. It was really interesting. So yeah, I can see why the critics like the people. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to sound like a shithead here, but the movie's a little cerebral and probably appeals to fewer than, the common base, So, yeah, it's just smart movies don't go over big with the public.
True. This is true. And to go back to the point that you made about pretty much this being kind of like the prototype of Scream, pretty much. Like the work that this movie ran so that Scream could walk. One would say, because I was watching not necessarily a documentary, but a couple of interviews with some of the people from the cast, and they were saying that this movie is pretty much kind of laid the groundwork for Scream, later on, and that this movie was kind of much ahead of its time, but Scream came out at the perfect time. You know what I mean? So, I could totally see where they could get, the whole, like, this movie was kind of at least the story of this movie, of it being like about movie stars, but also still being a horror movie, and just very, very weird reality, the change in perspective of reality kind of sort of thing, but also putting it into a horror movie and not just doing it off of like, I can understand if you did it for the first movie, but you're talking about a franchise that already finished, that claimed that it was finished, and then bringing it back for this, sequel, or, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And you're doing this kind of plot. I could see on paper, it could have been way worse. It could have been way worse of a movie. But the fact that this movie actually turned out to be a good movie, I'd say that, Wes Craven really needed to make this movie. Shout out to Michael Fitzgerald Choi. He says, "Yay, hey, Mark, Michael. Heat index." Sounds like somebody's happy about the heat of it.
Yeah, he's out there in California. So,
so they're getting it too, I believe, aren't they? Or no?
Yeah, I don't know. There's, I don't know exactly what's going on. Of course, it's a lot of wildfires. Apparently. The haze we're getting here in Toledo is coming from the wildfires in California. So it must be pretty fucking bad. Yeah, because, on very hot days where the sun is definitely out and there's no clouds, the sun has been obscured and hazy. So
I wish the sun would show up a little bit more here in Florida. It hasn't, like, for the past week. It's been in and out a little bit.
Wow.
Wish it would come back over here a little bit, But to get back to New Nightmare, I kind of want to touch on something, because at the beginning of this movie, it's a very weird. I don't even know how to put this. Like, the first 5 minutes of this movie, you're like, what the fuck is going on? And then you find out, you see the hand come up with the the razors, or whatever you want to call them, the knives, and it kills the prop guy, or the camera guy, right? And then it goes after her husband, Heather Langenkamp's husband, in the movie, and then it turns out to be this this nightmare, right, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of don't really understand exactly what the fuck is going on in the first half of this movie. I'm like, I kind of started catching on more, obviously as the movie, continues to go on, right? The movie progresses, you start to understand more. Okay, like she's here, but she's there, and we'll get more into that. But in terms of going in and out, in terms of reality, and then remember that part where she's fighting Freddy, and he scratches her, or he gets her, and she's got those three scars from the claws, and then she wakes up and she goes back to the hospital, and it's there, and she has to lie and say it was an earthquake and all. Like, when that happens, I'm like, all right, I kind of see where they're playing into that, but we're also talking about their reality now. So it's like, how is this making sense if we're talking about their reality? Like, I don't know. Like, I just don't understand it. And maybe I have to watch it again. But Michael Fitzgerald Choi says, Meta is tired. It does seem expected now, but edgy in the 90s, pop culture is young.
Good point.
But Mark, how did you feel about this going into reality, coming back at it? Because we've seen it in every movie in the Nightmare franchise, but now we're talking about them being, this is real life now. this is reality. Those were all movies. And also, do you actually, I don't want to say respect, but do you agree with him going this route, with Wes Craven saying, you know what, you guys finally give me free reigns to do my own movie, and I'm going this route of reality and consciousness with the real actors from these movies, or at least Heather Langenkamp and Robert Englund. Oh, and John Saxon. I forgot. He showed up too. I forgot.
Mm-hmm.
So there's another one.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, my hat's off to Wes Craven. I mean, he is, just, I respect him a lot. He's an innovator. Not every movie is necessarily innovation, but I can't think of a movie of his that I've seen that I don't like. So, Scream was the thing. Nightmare on Elm Street is. He kind of did it twice in the same franchise, where he changed things in 1984, and then he did it again in 1994 with the same franchise. I mean, to me, that just says a lot. So, but yeah, as far as like the path of the film goes and the way everything is, it's like, well, I mean, a lot of those things I don't think were without precedent. We were supposed to be confused, I think, by that. The whole meta aspect. Is like I said, wasn't expected. And then and of course it opens with a nightmare. That's pretty par for the course. But that's still, I think that's still clever for Wes Craven. He kind of, he doesn't want to completely divorce himself from what happened in the past. So he gives us some of the aspects of the earlier films, and then of course that confusion about where reality and the dream world, how do they meet, how they come together, and these things like that. This is something that they've been playing with, I think, the entire franchise. So yeah, it does make an interesting, like, oh yeah, but this is supposed to be reality. But it's like, well, that's why it's meta, because, if we're talking about like Wes Craven's living at home and that's reality in this case, so, yeah. So yeah, I mean, he's definitely playing around. And like I said, that's respect, because that takes guts. It takes guts for somebody to be able to, go off brand or go off the track. It also takes guts for like the company, like New Line Cinema. Obviously they weren't accepting it at first, so they were a little uneasy about it, and then they finally gave it a green light. And well, yeah, I mean, like you said, it was a financial disappointment, but a critic darling. But it's like, hell, I think that's still good. I mean, yeah, but I mean, if we're gonna talk about these films, as people who love them, as fans, we got to think of the artistic merits as well. It's like, okay, this movie didn't make a lot of money. A lot of times, movies that don't make a lot of money get more respect from me because they took chances, and sometimes they fail. But that kind of effort, I tip my hat to, because this is the kind of thing that I like to see. I like to see when somebody takes a chance and innovates. That's why I like lower budget films, where people can, where people, sometimes you get these lower budget films where somebody becomes innovative, or they just do something amazing and work with something, make something great out of very little, so.
Facts. And I mean, we just reviewed a movie, 3 weeks ago, Toxic Avenger. Definitely one where it was a movie where it was little to no money, and they were able to go as far as they wanted in terms of creativity, and that movie was definitely taking a fucking chance. I mean, look at what kind of movie they made. Definitely taking a chance. But might I add too, Robert Englund, back in the 90s, that dude looked like a fucking A-lister in this movie. I mean, maybe it's just and I don't even want to say nostalgia because it's not like I was even old enough to watch movies in '94, but I do get this nostalgic feel because it gives me kind of like that Halloween H2-esque, mid and late '90s kind of film where it just had that kind of atmosphere to it where like you could show this to anyone and they'll tell you exactly what era this came from. It like anyone who didn't know what movie this was, and they'll tell you, "Oh, this is definitely mid '90s, late '90s, something like that." Like just the aura of this movie and the way they made Robert Englund, the star that they made him look like in this movie. I mean, he is a star, but you know what I mean. Like just the extra like oomph to him. They put some extra style on this dude. Like the glasses.
Yeah,
he was walking around with the glasses on, like the little flashy. I was like,
oh
man,
yeah,
dude,
well, I was kind of laughing
player,
because
man.
I don't know if those were like prescription sunglasses or whatever, but I was thinking it was kind of funny that he was painting with like what apparently were sunglasses, So that's for the life of me, I would never do that as an artist myself, like who am I trying to impress,
I loved it, man. I loved Robert Englund in this movie. Even though like his part in this movie, I wouldn't say his part was small, but he was very little. He was in this movie very little as Robert Englund, and we saw him as Freddy. I do want to go into the look of Freddy in this movie. Very different than what we've seen in any of the previous movies. And I actually want to get your take on it, Mark, because we see the more I don't even know how to like. It seemed more of like a less, obviously, as Smith pointed out a couple movies ago when we were talking about Nightmare, where it's like less slimy, less like wet, of the skin, and it was just more of like a drier. You could kind of almost tell that it was like a. I mean, I'm not saying the costume was bad or anything. I'm just saying you could almost kind of tell that it was a mask, kind of a little bit.
Yeah.
It seemed more of a like pinchable kind of costume. So I want to know your take on the look of Freddy and also his costume, like the wardrobe of Freddy. We got to see this dude in a trench coat and the hat. He looked more to me like Jeepers Creepers in that one scene than anything. I'm like, whoa, are we doing Jeepers Creepers in this one? He comes out and he's just with the trench coat and everything. I'm just like, I don't know, man. I don't know. But Mark, what was your thought, man?
I was thinking the same thing in terms of what Smith was saying about Freddy's Dead, with the aspect there was something off about, pretty much the mask, the headwear with, the scars, the parts where skin's torn open and showing muscle or whatever underneath, didn't have a lot of depth to them. Like you said, it looked more like a mask. And, I thought, I don't know, they could have added, like you said, maybe a little bit more wetness to it, maybe darken some areas in there. I mean, there was plenty of, because they did it before, I mean, who's making these props, and the costumes and makeup, that hasn't seen the films before. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of funny where you think, wow, are they going the easy route? Because there's other things in the movie where they didn't seem to hold back on, like the robotic hand,
Yep. It's one of those things where it's like, all right, man, you have this character and you kind of still have to make him look. I wouldn't say along with the time, like you shouldn't go along with the times, but you kind of got to build like his own era of the evolution of Freddy Krueger, right? Because I kind of had this thought to myself because I'm like, all right, after Freddy's Dead, which was what, 91, so it was 3 years prior to this one. So after that one, it's like, okay, can the old Freddy look pass in the mid 90s and him still look intimidating, him still be, but that's one question to his look. But let's go into the personality of Freddy Krueger in this movie. A lot of people saying we got a much darker Freddy in this movie than we have in any other Nightmare movie. And that, to me, bids the question of, well, Do you think Freddy Krueger was his darkest in New Nightmare?
Ooh, because oh, and there's yeah, I overall, I mean, I don't know, maybe it was kind of more of a throwback to the first one because he was definitely doing very little wisecracking, and I kind of have to chuckle a little thinking of the Rick and Morty parody of Freddy, where where they said, "Wow, this guy says bitch a lot." So, because Freddy was definitely saying bitch a lot, like Freddy does. Yeah, but the wisecracks, not so much. But yeah, that gave a different tone to the film. And yeah, I think it needed a different tone because of the meta aspects of it, where it's supposed to be in our reality or whatever. And so yeah, that part I didn't have a problem. But I think we've seen Freddy darker. I mean, your favorite scene in Nightmare 2 is probably the first thing that I think of, where he's in the pool and what does he say? You're all my children now,
You're
or
all
something
my
like
children
that.
now.
Yeah. I mean, that was definitely Freddy at a very dark point. And that was one of the highlights of an otherwise so-so movie. But yeah, so I think we've seen Freddy darker before, but the tone was very consistent in this one. And yeah, I think, like, to go back to what I just said, I think it's necessary to at least that's what it was trying to do, to sort of make it more of this thing where it's like, oh, okay, the movies, we had Freddy fun and games, but now he's coming into reality. This is really fucked up.
And he's actually coming to kill you. And we're gonna get to the ending part of this, but I do want to add this in here as well, because we cannot forget, I guess, about the second most important character of this movie, aside from Freddy, which is Dylan, the kid, the son, the spawn of Heather Langenkamp. Boy, this movie just continued my campaign of hating kids and never wanting to have kids myself. Jesus fucking Christ. Look, man, if there's one thing, and I know I'm going to come off probably as an asshole by saying this, but if there's one thing I hate in my horror movies, are children. Because they are the most, they're worse than like the 16-year-old white girls that just trip over nothing when running in a slasher film. Like, kids are just, they're like, it's annoying, man. It's just like, bro, how many times was he trying to get his mom killed? How many times did this kid try and kill himself? And then how many times did he try and kill his mom intentionally? Like, it's just, bro. Wes Craven, why? Why put me through this? Because I really enjoyed this movie. But the kid just was not resonate. I'm not saying resonate. I shouldn't say resonate because I'm not a kid. But it just wasn't. How do I say it? Like, it just wasn't hitting for me. You know what I mean? Like, it just, like, the whole plot with the son Dylan and him being, I'm guessing, possessed, or him sleepwalking, and then I'm just like, bro, do we really need this? Do we really need this? You know what I mean? Like, I like Heather Langenkamp's part in this movie. It is played extremely well. And I'll go as far as this. This is the best I've seen Heather Langenkamp in the 3 movies that she was in. I mean, her acting in this movie was amazing. Even though I hate the parts with Dylan, some of her best acting is just being that protective mom. And like that part where they're laying in the bed and she's sitting there crying and then talking to him and telling him, like, I'm like, bro, this is probably her best work I've seen. At least in this franchise. I haven't seen Heather Langenkamp in anything other than the Nightmare franchises. So I can't say like the best work ever. But the best work that I've seen.
I was thinking about that while I was watching it. I'm like, what else has she been in?
I mean, I looked at her IMDb maybe when we first started this movie review of the Nightmare movies. But that was 2 months ago at this point. Like I totally forgot what she was in. but other than Nightmare franchise. But this to me, her acting in this movie, I thought was just it was amazing. I mean, what about you, Mark?
Yeah, well, kind of going back to what you said about Dylan. I was, at the very beginning of the movie, we already got this uneasiness from Heather, and there were some very awkward moments, and it was immersive for me because the way she was awkward, the way she was tense and worried and everything. I mean, I could feel it with her. I just was like, oh man, that's but just the way that played out, like I said, it really contributed to the immersive experience. However, I don't know, toward the end of the movie, then it just started, I don't know how many times she had to yell Dylan and just, I don't know. That was getting a little tiresome at some point. But that's not to say that it made the movie bad. But if we're strictly talking about Heather Langenkamp's performance, now, of course, I mean, we're talking about actors' performances. I mean, I want to give them their dues, but the director's also involved too. So we got to talk about, when we talk about an actor's performance, their ability to play that out the way it did, but it's also the director of how they get the performance out of them. But either way, between the two, these two people, the Wes Craven and Heather Langenkamp, I think they really brought a lot, to the character with her sort of uneasiness about the franchise. Now, I don't know if that's the way she really feels, but man, it felt real coming from her.
And oh man, I agree. I agree with that last part definitely. Michael Fitzgerald Choice says best line in Nightmare 2 when the guy says, "We just want to help you, Freddy," and he says, "Help yourself, fucker." Oh man, that was also part of the pool scene too, wasn't it? Where that's where that's part of the pool scene too.
Yeah, everything was going crazy at the pool, and some guy was like, "No, it's okay. We want to help." Yeah, yeah.
Which to me, I mean, I guess for the second movie or franchise, I guess you could kind of get away with people still wanting to, kind of like, "Oh, hey, Mister," kind of ignore his physical appearance and the obvious knives and just want to help. It's just like I don't a human armadillo. I wouldn't walk up to a human armadillo and say I just want to help. I'm sorry, I wouldn't want to do that.
Well, I mean, I think it was brave of the guy, but it was definitely a good setup, for just that line and the way it played out. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Michael Fitzgerald Choi also says, "Loved your Toxic Avenger episode. Thank you." He says, "You should do part 2. Well, Michael, here's why we won't do a part 2, because I enjoyed the movie. It was entertaining. Like it wasn't a dull moment in the movie. But from what I've been told, part 2 and part 3 are not good. And I'm not as invested into Toxic Avenger, for me to want to do a part 2 if I hear that it's bad. So, but Mark, as you said, part four, I think
I think if we return to Toxic Avenger, which I just watched about a week ago again, with a friend who wanted to. No, the fourth one. So Citizen Toxic, and that's actually, in some ways I like it better than the first. So I mean, it really brings the trauma out. It's outrageous. It's over the top. It's got really dark humor. They kind of push the envelope on political correctness. So it's a pretty fun movie to watch. It's pretty outrageous.
Okay. So also, and Wes Craven's New Nightmare, I got a little scoop And Mark, you might know this one, but also obviously, I was trying to, find any kind of, kind of backstory of this movie or anything like that, or any kind of like off the camera stuff, bro. So the part where, because Wes Craven goes back to a lot of the movies during this movie in terms of like paying homage, I guess you could probably say, to some of the movies, the previous movies of the Nightmare franchise. Let's go back to the first movie. And one of my favorite parts of the first movie, very simple. Nancy picks up the phone, and Freddy's tongue comes out and licks her face. In this movie, the same thing happens. And what I learned, which by the way, I actually literally laughed out loud when I watched it last week. I'm not a laugh out loud kind of person unless something's really funny. And that movie, like that part of that movie, really had me dead, just because it just had me thinking about the first one. I found out that Heather Langenkamp, after they finished shooting this movie, she wanted to keep that phone with the tongue with Freddy's tongue coming out. And
that's awesome.
I'm just
that's
like,
iconic.
I'm like, what a weird request. to of all the props on set, you want to request to keep the phone with a tongue coming out of it. Now I don't know
that's
what you guys
insurance
are
for her.
I don't know.
If things get rough, she can auction it off.
Oh my gosh. What up, Smith, man? How goes it?
You guys already talking about the ending here, or like how far are we in?
Oh no. We're all over the place, man. We're just all over the fucking place.
The foam tongue.
Yeah. So Heather Langenkamp, she actually requested to keep that as a prop with the tongue coming out of the phone. That's the only thing she requested.
That sound, yeah.
It's weird. It's weird, man.
Yeah, I mean, I would have wanted it, but yeah, I don't know. It's like,
give me the
who knows what
nod,
Heather's
man.
like, but yeah.
But if you could keep anything,
Oh yeah, that's a good. But yeah,
why would you take the tongue? Even for
I don't
insurance, like auction off the weird hand thing. Like that would make you some money.
yeah.
I want the glove, man. Give me the glove with the not. Oh my god, dude, I'll take that. And Freddy's hat. Give me the hat.
Oh yeah.
Now, what about Chase's design of the glove with the bones on it? That was a difference.
Yeah. It was very. Here's the thing, man. They added so much depth to it that I think it kind of, we didn't really need that slimy, texture and look to Freddy anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You did get like a more like, it looks more like a mask type of Freddy, but they added more depth to like the different parts of his body. They added more depth to the actual, like it was cool. I liked it, man. I really liked it. And that glove is, man, those gloves was awesome.
But we have Smith back here, we were, earlier we were talking about Freddy's look and, and how it, how it was, kind of a little dry and, too masky. So what's your take on that, Smith?
Yeah, it does. Was it the third one where they went with the drier look too, or am I mistaken?
Yeah,
I think
we quoted you earlier. We were like, Smith called it out a few movies ago.
Yeah, to me though, I think it gets a pass in this film because I felt like they did that. Like, it was intentional. They wanted to look more like a mask because you got the dude who's like real life and he's going through this shit with the painting and everything. So I don't know. It doesn't look good, but I understand. Like, it doesn't ruin the film.
Cool.
I want to go. I want to go a little bit deeper too in this too, because I meant to do research on like this part of the movie of like what story were they trying to tell in terms of the cast being affected by the movies. You're talking about, I mean, maybe not the cast, but the people involved with the Nightmare franchise being affected in this movie. That one to me was the big one where it's like, all right, what exactly are they trying to tell here? Are they trying to say, you know, that like you mentioned earlier, like was Heather Langenkamp, was she really dealing with this shit in real life, or was it just a genius take by Wes Craven to do this? I mean, do any of you guys know, or did you guys feel the same way, or what?
I think it was a genius take, which is not to say that the movie was great or anything, but the full like fourth wall kind of break thing, where it's like, oh, it's like they're looking at the Freddy thing from the outside. Then she deals with it. Yeah, it was a genius take. That's my opinion.
Okay, I'll probably go. I'll probably go more towards. I mean, you kind of convinced me a little bit. Mark, what about you?
Yeah, well, I mean, mostly I think it surrounds, when Wes Craven is talking to Heather about the spirit and everything. I mean, again, I think that's another aspect where, we spoke earlier about Heather and, her performance of her uneasiness about the franchise, and I said, well, I don't know if she was really uneasy about it. And now that I know about the phone tongue or the tongue phone, then it probably wasn't, but I believed it. And that's the thing too, where this story about the spirit and the way, and the story behind it and all the different aspects of what he needs to do. Yeah, I mean, that came off as believable as far as like being immersed in the movie. It's not like I believe that they were really being haunted by a spirit, but I just mean the way they were presenting it, kept me in the film with that part of it. And so yeah, so I just thought that part just really, sort of brought it all together. I mean, because that was just like almost right before the climax. So yeah, it was interesting how they played out. I mean, and this is what happens in a lot of horror movies. A lot of horror movies, especially like vampire and werewolf movies, right? There's always got to be some sort of criteria. There's always got to be some sort of established rules. So I kind of think that's what he was doing with this spirit. And then, with everybody having the same nightmares and things like that,
yeah.
It's kind of funny. I could see some people, that might be a little more credulous, thinking, wow, maybe they were really being haunted. Maybe this is based on a true story, that type of thing, because yeah, I think they did a good job with that. It definitely kept me in the movie.
Yeah, like especially the part with the producer where he had like the script, like not the script, but the it was he had the story for it or whatever when he brought her into the office and he was like, oh, I got this stuff, and then she later realizes it's like one of his nightmares. It's all over the place, man. This movie was but not in a bad way all over the place. It was just like, what the fuck is happening? And it goes back to what Smith was saying. It's like this could be genius to where it's kind of breaking down that fourth wall, or at least acknowledging that fourth wall, right? Where it's saying, look, we did, these were all movies and we're all actors, but now you're also still playing in that field of Freddy's still there. These nightmares were still real to them. It was still a very real experience to them. And man, I gotta say that like this movie definitely was, and I know we keep going back to Scream, obviously Wes Craven, but this was definitely the blueprint for Scream. It's more and more evident that this was definitely the blueprint for Scream. It's just that Scream was more humorous, and I felt like that kind of resonated more with the teenagers of that time because it did focus on people that age. And I feel like if this movie did that, if it didn't have necessarily only Heather Langenkamp and John Saxon and Robert Englund, if it had actual other teenagers in this movie, it might have had a different feel to it. Maybe for the better, maybe for the worse.
Definitely.
I don't know. But in terms of the kill count, it's not many in this movie. But I do want to ask you guys, did you guys realize it by the end of the movie that the kill count wasn't much? Because I'll be honest, I didn't. I did not And that's one of my big things. It's like, oh, dude, it's got to at least, as long as the story's good, I don't really care about the kill count, as long as the kills matter and they mean, as long as they mean something. But Smith, I'll start with you. Like, how did you feel about the kill count? Did you even realize that it wasn't that many people that got killed in this movie?
It's my fault for this, but I didn't think about it until you just mentioned it, which I probably should have been doing, watching a Freddy movie. But if you don't count the people who died in that opening scene, like, because that was a dream, so they didn't really die. I don't know how you would tally that up. But yeah, it wasn't.
But we found out later that they did really die, though, right? Which was the crazy part.
Yeah.
Props guys?
Yeah, the props guys died. They were found in a field, and then of course Chase died too.
Wait, what are you?
And what's that?
Real life? Talking about in real life?
No, like in real life in the movie, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Not just in Heather's
Wait,
dreams.
are you asking real life? Are you asking about real life?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Like not
movie,
not real life, but like real life.
Yeah, the caveat of talking about a meta movie. Which reality are we talking about here? Reality Prime,
Mark, what about you? I mean, how did you feel about this whole? I don't know, man. This movie was outrageous. It was fucking outrageous. But how did you feel about the dynamic of going from, okay, this is going to be a nightmare / horror movie to kind of getting more into a thriller-esque kind of movie, and then by the end you're like, wait a minute, the kill count was how many? Not as many as any other Freddy movie. So I mean, how did you feel? I mean, did you even think about the kill count? Because I mean, Smith and I, we both realized by the end of this movie we didn't think about the kill count. Smith just now thought about the kill count. So
well, when I watched it last week, no, I didn't. I didn't miss it, which is which can be unusual for me. I'm an old slasher splatter movie fan, and the more bodies the better. But yeah, this film, when I watched it again today, I was trying to think about your two main questions, and I was thinking, well, yeah, I always bring up the kill count when it comes to slasher movies, and I don't think it really needed it. I mean, when I said it about films before, I'm like, yeah, there's just certain things that they could have done to make it, to make the kill count higher. But with this, it all made sense. It all, it just resonated with me in the sense that, it's with the entire movie overall. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you bring up the word thriller, because it does have a lot more of those aspects in it to what we think of more as a thriller that has less horror in it, although we get more at the end. But that's the payoff. I mean, that's that's what we get at the end. That's what we get at the climax. So everything was building up to that in this sort of different way. But I think it works with the what we got 3 bodies out of this film. Maybe
ones that we saw at least.
Right, right.
So we get to the end of this movie, and Freddy dies by fire and turns into a demon. That's a new one. That's I didn't know what to think about the end of this fucking movie. I really didn't. I was like, you kind of led us up to this big bang, right? And then it was like, oh, that's how you kill him. Okay. I mean, look, I'm not saying I have all the answers of how to kill Freddy or anything, but I'm like, look, man, this was supposed to be your I wouldn't even say director's cut, but it's supposed to be your director's movie. You know what I mean? Like instead of having like a director's cut of anything, it's supposed to be like your vision, your end up. But that's the way you want to do it. Is Freddy's But anyways, Mark, I'll start off with you. How did you feel about that? that complete ending, like from his death to the very ending of this movie. How did you feel?
Well, it is kind of funny where I don't know. I can't recall Freddy having being defeated in a way that was pretty satisfactory. It just like Freddy's dead. I mean, that was supposed to be his. That was supposed to be the end, the complete end for him. And yeah, it just didn't work as well for me. I mean, and that was mostly because like they put the 3D effects in there, and they had those really shitty looking. Like I think they were actually using like 1991 CGI, which was horrible, but or even if it wasn't CGI, whatever they were doing, yeah, that really took took me out of the movie in that regard. Because I got to think, and to make this comparison, I mean, in retrospect, it's one thing, but probably one of the most satisfactory kills of the villain for a slasher movie, I think, is when Tommy Jarvis just hacked Jason to death in Friday the 13th, the final chapter. I mean, they really could have ended that whole franchise with that movie, and I think it would have given us some closure. Because, yeah, how do you kill Jason? Just keep hacking the fuck out of him. Just one hack for every victim and more. So yeah, and I don't know. I don't think Freddy got that kind of death.
Not once, I don't think. I mean, unless you guys can think of like out of these 6 movies, I can't think of one.
The mirror scene was not bad. I think that came after Dream Warriors. That was, or maybe it didn't. I can't remember which one.
Oh yeah, okay. So that would have been what? Dream.
The Dream Master.
Dream Master.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Which. Yeah.
So that's probably still number 1. That's probably still death number 1 then, or the only decent death this dude's got.
What was that, Smith?
That one's probably the best out of all of them, if you had to choose.
Right. Yeah.
Freddy's definitely had the like dumbest deaths out of the other slashers.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but I'll know it when I see it, and I have yet to see it.
Smith, what did you think about the ending, man? About Freddy's death? The whole was it all a dream? And was this a story, Mom? And what did you think?
We didn't. It was terrible. Like the film was passable up until that point. It had some good scenes, I thought, and then you get to the ending, and yeah, like when he's trying to go after the kid in the room that he dies in, he initially can't fit into the hole with doors on it, and then he gets stabbed, and for some reason he can fit inside of it now. It's like, what the fuck? And then all the Roman buildings collapsing. I'm like, what are you even going for here? Like, I don't understand. It's like it's like Goonies when they're getting on the pirate ship and everything's collapsing. I'm like,
and on top of that too, though, Freddy has been able to transform into pretty much anything out of all these movies, but now he can't even fit inside. Like you said, he can't even fit inside that small ass door. Now, again, I get that it's supposed to be, reality, whatever, but that ending was poor, man. I can't shit on it too much because yes, this was Wes Craven's vision of what he wanted to do for a final Freddy movie, but god damn, that ending was horrible. But I want to ask you guys, and of course, one of my few questions that I always ask every time we do a movie review. What was your favorite part of this movie and why? So Smith, I'll start with you.
Best scene has to be at the playground where he climbs to the top of that rocket ship thing and he just stands there like doing a T-pose and then like falls off. The mom catches him. Like the slow-mo is really lame. But he's like, God was trying to take me, Mom. Definitely a redeeming scene. Doesn't make up for the ending, but
The slow-mo was really lame. Mark,
God wouldn't take me.
what was your? Oh, by the way, Smith, I don't think you're on here. I completely shat on that kid for like a good maybe like 90 seconds earlier.
Yeah, child
I
actor.
hated every part of the kid in this movie. But Mark, what about you? What was your favorite part of this movie?
Oh, my favorite part is the opening nightmare where the robotic hand starts killing everyone. So, because I thought they started off good with Heather Langenkamp's uneasiness and everything. And yeah, I mean, that was probably the most exciting part of the film, where you got this robotic hand and it's killing everybody and everybody's going nuts. And, and this is one thing, like, nobody, I don't know. If it would be me, I'd be like, call an ambulance, they're just like, hey, stop, like, whatever, get off me. And yeah, but either way, yeah, that was really exciting. But there are a few moments like that in this film where I don't know. I have to wonder. Okay, and that might be rushing ahead to your next question, but I can't help but think of like the scene where she's getting the phone calls and then yells at the driver. Like oh, he's like yeah, blah blah blah. Like I'm here to pick you up. And then she just fucking hangs up the phone. I mean, no, oh, I'm sorry about that. I was just getting some obscene phone calls. I didn't mean to yell at you. And she just fucking hung up. And I know it's common in movies for people not to say goodbye when they hang up. But I expected a little bit more. They're just, whatever. I mean, that doesn't ruin the movie, but that was just.
You're mad that he disrespected the driver.
Yeah. I just like, come on, because I mean, she was anything but a diva otherwise. I mean, when their conversation in the car, she was like, "Yeah, I'm hardly a star," which kind of goes back to, well, yeah, I do got to wonder about that because I don't know if I've seen her in anything else.
But,
yeah.
True.
But, yeah.
I don't think I've seen Heather Langenkamp in anything else other than the Nightmare franchise.
But yeah, there just seems to be these little weird tidbits that I'm just being fussy about. But yeah, just sort of the etiquette going on, or just sort of the like, what would? Oh yeah, there was another thing. Okay, this is really silly.
Oh hell.
But okay, now I've had a lot of health problems. I've stayed in the hospital many times, and she goes there at night. It might have been early evening or whatever, but the main doctor that was taking care of Dylan, the black woman, during the day was present. Okay, now if there was a nurse that she saw in the morning and was still present at night, that would make sense. But come on, man, I know for sure, like, there are no like main doctors. They're there during the day and they split at 4. So I'm just like, what is she still doing at the hospital? But yeah, that's okay. I mean, that's just me. Like anybody else might not have that experience, but just from what I know about hospitals, yeah. Oh, okay. And there was one Easter egg. There's one Easter egg during a hospital scene where on the announcement they make an announcement about room 237, which was the notorious room with the rotting, naked old woman that was supposedly had choked Danny, and then so that was room 237. Just an Easter egg.
Wait, and which one?
The Shining.
Oh shit. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, Scatman Crothers tells Danny, don't go into room 237. That's the notorious room.
I'm dead. I didn't even catch it. If there's one part in this movie that I just didn't dislike, that I just didn't like, and that I probably would definitely fix, and I wouldn't say I didn't like the sequence. It was a sequence of where Dylan is running through the traffic, right, and Heather's running after him, blah blah whatever, and he like each car keeps missing him. I know you're thinking. You're probably thinking I'm going to kill him off in this scene. No, I'm not. But what I do think, what should have happened, or a route that they could have taken, was Dylan running across the traffic and him. You know how he kept, each car kept missing him and it kept getting super close or whatever, and then the Heather's going after him. I think that I know this is very not many people would really agree with this decision, but I would say kill off Heather. I would say, look, if you're going to do a one-off and say, hey, this is the last movie, why not kill off? Why not kill off? Heather, or quote unquote Nancy. Because I mean, they made it more about. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't say they made it more about the kid, but it's like, all right, what was the kid really there for, except for getting in the way and being possessed? Like, it's just like I've said before, every fucking scene with this kid, it's more frustrating than it is actually adding any kind of depth to the story. You know what I mean? Like, you could have told a perfect story with just I wouldn't say with just Heather, but maybe have the kid be a little bit older. I don't fucking know. I mean, it has only been 10 years, so I guess you can't really make the kid older. But I don't know, man. That kid just was not clicking with me throughout this movie. It just wasn't. And if there's one thing I would fix, it would be that one scene. But even then, I don't even think that would really fix the parts of this movie that really made me frustrated with Dylan. Smith, if you could fix anything in this movie, or if you had a least favorite part of this movie, what would it be?
Just the ending. Don't know how to fix it. I really, like you guys are saying, if there's like Mark said, if there's a correct way to kill Freddy, we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, they definitely could have done a bit more comedy in this as well, as a footnote, because that's what Freddy was known for, and he didn't make as many or any really like quips. There was no like him like talking shit like he usually does, which I don't know. It's his take on it though, I understand, but not doing any fan favors here.
A not shit talking Freddy, to me, isn't really Freddy. But we can't say that this Freddy wasn't really Freddy, because I mean, it was Robert Englund, so I can't really, you know what I mean? I can't really say, Robert Englund wasn't really Robert Englund, but yeah, I agree, because this was definitely, I wouldn't say this was out of left field, because this Freddy wasn't. But, like Mark and I talked about earlier, I do think, I think, Mark, you said it earlier about, the second movie, where one of the darkest Freddys we got was in the second movie because of that pool scene, right? But I'll go a little bit further and just say that this Freddy was just a little bit darker. This is the darkest I've seen that I've actually been able to sit down and say, okay, in terms of a darker take, a more serious take, it's probably this Freddy. But Mark, I know you talked a little bit about your least favorite scenes and what you would fix. But what is the one scene that you literally were like, you know what, I probably wouldn't put that in this movie, or I would probably fix it.
Wow. Between you and Smith, I think you pretty much already touched on the same things that I was thinking throughout this film. It's like with Dylan. I don't know. It's kind of like with clowns. Like people, like are uneasy like about creepy kids. I mean, and I could think maybe the creepiest kids in any movie was probably the Grady twins in The Shining. Come play with us, Danny, forever and ever. I mean, that really worked. I'm not afraid of creepy kids. I just find them annoying. So, I mean, that came out for me in this film. Especially when he's supposed to be talking, hey, don't go to sleep. And, it's like, oh, God, yeah. So, yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, that him freaking out. Yeah, so, yeah, they definitely brought that out, that aspect of what I think about kids in me. But, if they wanted to make the kid truly creepy, yeah, there's some kind of way they should have did a different take on it. I don't know. Maybe Wes should have watched another. I was trying to watch The Good Son or something like that. Or,
Yeah.
take a page out of The Shining. So yeah, that whole thing. Yeah, kids and clowns. Not afraid of either one. So,
yeah.
but it's like I just drew an axe murder clown because I'm just playing on people's fear of clowns. It's kind of a troll. So yeah, but yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, with all of that, and once again, it wasn't a destruction of Freddy that I found very satisfactory in the franchise so far. And yet, at a lot of ways, this is probably one of my favorites up there, with this franchise, just because I really like the take on it with something different. But it definitely has its flaws.
Yeah, and I would go as far as to agree with you about that as well. That this still to me isn't the best Freddy movie, but this is still up there. It's probably my top three. Once we actually sit down in the end and actually rank our Nightmare movies, this will probably end up in my top three. But at the end of the day, this movie it clicked with me. The story was good enough for me to at least stay in it. I wanted to know more about this whole reality against consciousness. Fighting death, fighting off Freddy. I mean, again, another great scene I thought was when she went to go witness the body of what's the old dude's name? Her husband's
Chase.
name, Chase, and they pulled back the fucking sheet, and you saw the claws, like the fucking. I was like, holy shit, man! Like this is. And like that's one part that I love about movies too is when your protagonist actually is surprised about something and it actually, everything clicks, the light bulb goes off. That's one of the most rewarding parts as an audience member just watching a fucking movie is just seeing your protagonist, just the light bulb goes off and you're like, oh shit, like shit is real now. Like I gotta it's game time now. You know what I'm saying? So look, that did it for me. Heather Langenkamp. Again, like I said, this is her best performance I've seen her in. This is way better than what she did in the first one. Not taking anything away from her in the first one, but 10 years is a long time to progress. And I think we saw it in this movie with Heather Langenkamp. I think she definitely was the main focal point in this movie, but she definitely stole the show. This wasn't really Robert Englund's time to shine in this movie. This was more of Heather Langenkamp. This is the way she goes out. This is the way she leaves the franchise, and I actually liked it. I didn't see it as retconning or anything like that in terms of trying to put her back in. I just think that this was a well written and well told story for the most part. So at the end of the day, I got to give this movie. I'm gonna go with a B-. So that's my grade for this movie. So Mark, I will go to you next. What was your grade for this movie, and why?
Well, full disclosure, I would have given this film an A+ before I rewatched it, and then of course this discussion gave me some food for thought as well. However, I would be remiss to not give it a good grade. Because there is a lot I like about it. There is something about the film that just maybe it's nostalgia for the first time I watched it and just what it brought to me and at the time. So yeah, I think with the lack of a good ending, yeah, definitely drops from an A+ to an A-. I still really like this movie.
I'm thinking here I am thinking that you're like I'm gonna give it A+, but you know what I got dropped out. I'm thinking it was gonna be maybe a solid B+, A-. Smith, what about you? What was your grade for New Nightmare and why?
Well, after hearing that you two are going to put it in your top three, so it's like sort of in high regards. I don't see it that way at all, so I'm gonna have to like go below Corn. So I'll give it a C plus. If I had to pick any movie to put on from the Freddy franchise so far, it would not be this one. Like, I'm never gonna rewatch this. It's all right.
Oh man. Well, I know you think I'm crazy, but wait till we get to the reboot. We're 2 movies away from the remake. I think you both are gonna hate me then, but or look at me different then.
We'll see. I mean, I came out.
Give you my grade for that one.
yeah. Well, I don't know. It's like I rewatching all of these films. Especially since I hadn't seen most of them in at least 10 years. So yeah, I've changed my opinion in a lot of ways about the movies, certain movies overall, and certain details about each movie. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe there's something in the reboot or whatever that I didn't see. However, one thing that I was pissed off about, I was wrong about when it came to the remake. I don't know if I should save that.
Save it.
I should probably save that.
Make sure you remember it though.
I think I will, because it was something that I saw really quickly in like the third or fourth film. Ooh. that confirmed something that I I didn't know about, and in fact, we had a discussion. My roommate and I had a discussion about it, and he said that it was implied, but come to find out, no, it wasn't just implied; it was directly pointed out. But I hate to keep everyone in suspense because I know you care that.
Well,
but I think we should say.
Just tell us. What is it?
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought, because when they were talking about how Freddy Krueger was a child molester too, I was pissed off because I thought he was just a straight up killer, and that made me really disappointed. Like, it just really left a bad taste in my mouth. But I can't remember which movie it was. But there's a really quick scene where they show a newspaper clipping that says, child molester and murderer strikes again. And it must have been maybe 4. I mean, because there was a picture.
4, right?
Yeah, because of I think there was the picture of of in the article. I think it was a picture of
Krueger.
Yeah, no, I thought it was like, wasn't there, or there were, or at least there was one of the, because I think they were showing other clips, and there was a picture of the nun, and right, number 4 had a lot to do with Freddy's mom.
Yeah, his backstory.
Yeah. So I think it was 4 that we saw that clipping, and that's the thing. It goes by so quick; it's easy to forget about. And but Freddy apparently was a child molester too. They just didn't elaborate on. I mean, probably for good reason. But
yeah. So you're saying, like, in the so that is the reason, not the sole reason, but that's one of the reasons why you dislike the remake, is because you thought that they created that origin themselves.
I thought they were kind of, well, I mean, with that assumption, without that knowledge, I thought, oh yeah, you're really ruining Freddy for me, and honestly, at this point, I don't remember as much from the movie, and why I didn't like it, but that's one of the things. And then after watching 4, I was like, oh wow, I'm so fucking wrong. I mean, but I don't know. In my defense, it's something you could easily miss because it wasn't pointed out much at all. But I think they elaborated on it a little bit more in the remake. So yeah, it'll be interesting to watch it again. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Yeah. So we still got a few weeks till we get to that one. That's going to be a good one. But ladies and gentlemen, that was our Wes Craven's New Nightmare movie review here on the Half-Ass Pod Film Panel. We do not fret, do not worry, but we are coming back with another movie review this Saturday night. and we will be reviewing Blade Runner, and as well probably maybe Blade Runner 2049. We don't know yet, but
I thought we said the final cut.
The final cut, yes. So if you guys want to watch prior to us doing the movie review this Saturday night, go watch Blade Runner, the final cut. But with that all said, we have an actual episode of the HAP Film Panel coming up here in just a few minutes. So make sure you guys, once we're finished with this stream, hop over into the other stream, because we will be going live, and we got about 6 topics tonight, guys. So we got some shit to talk about, and some of these things are very, very interesting tonight. So this is a must-see episode of the HAP Film Panel. So make sure you guys head over there. You guys got anything else to say about New Nightmare? All right,
a little bit.
Oh, go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mark.
I don't. One thing that crossed my mind was the idea that I wonder if Wes Craven was making a commentary on how superstitious that people in the film industry tend to be. I mean, of course, actors are notoriously superstitious, but I think that crosses over to other people in the industry. And since it was about the industry, I do have to wonder if maybe some of his intended audience was people in the industry to sort of spook them out, to sort of play on their already, like their superstitious sensibilities. So yeah, that was just a thought.
And I think that again, I hate to keep going back to Scream, but I think Scream was what A New Nightmare should have been, or was supposed to be. You know what I mean? In terms of because a lot of people look at Scream as definitely this it's not even a cult classic, it's just a straight up horror classic. And with good reason. I mean, it's one of those movies that when I saw it as a kid, I was just like, yeah. But as I got older and I kept watching it more and more and more, I'm like, this movie definitely really hits. Like Scream really hits. And New Nightmare, I could see where it was trying to go, but I could also see where it's kind of off-putting, because you're mixing reality with an entire franchise we've already been introduced to for 6 movies. So, at least Scream had a chance. It had room to breathe, unlike New Nightmare, which, I mean, yeah, in a way it did, but at the same time, you're basing this off of a character that we've already seen for over, a decade at this point. And like you said, like you mentioned earlier at the very beginning of this, Mark, is that this is more of this franchise. Think about it: 6 movies in 10 years. That's a lot. That's 5 sequels. 7. That's 6 sequels in a span of 10 years. At that point, it's all right, fam. Now, now we're starting to, this isn't Marvel. You know what I'm saying? You gotta have more depth. So, yeah. So this was our Wes Craven's New Nightmare review. Make sure you guys head over to the stream once we finish here. I am me. This is Smith. This is Mark. And again, we are not leaving. Head over to the other stream, because we got a lot to talk about here tonight. But we, ladies and gentlemen, are the Half-Ass Pod Film Panel, and we are OUT.